Your doctor has 15 minutes with you. That's it. 15 minutes to look at your numbers, write a prescription, and send you out the door. And in those 15 minutes, they will not tell you that the pill they just prescribed causes kidney damage, chronic fatigue, sexual dysfunction, and depression. They will not tell you that 50% of people who start blood pressure medication are still on it 20 years later. And they will not tell you this: high blood pressure is not a drug deficiency. It is a signal. And for thousands of years, before prescription pads existed, physicians in ancient Egypt, imperial China, and medieval Arabia were answering that signal with 7 plants. Plants that modern cardiology has now confirmed lower blood pressure as effectively as first-line pharmaceutical drugs. One of them was used by Egyptian pharaohs 4,000 years ago. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Hypertension confirmed it drops systolic pressure by 11 points in 6 weeks. 11 points. From a plant your grandmother probably grew in her garden. And plant number 7, the one that will genuinely stop you, activates the exact same mechanism as ACE inhibitors, the most prescribed blood pressure drug class on Earth, without a single side effect. I want you to think about something before we go further. When did your doctor last explain what is actually happening inside your arteries? Not your numbers, not your prescription. What is actually happening? Because what they have 15 minutes to give you and what these plants have been doing for 4,000 years are two very different things. Here are the 7 plants that drop blood pressure in days. Let's go. Plant 1. Hibiscus. If there is one plant on this list that has earned the right to be called a pharmaceutical alternative, it is this one. Not because of folklore, because of the data. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Nutrition analyzed 9 randomized controlled trials involving 390 patients with hypertension. Hibiscus tea significantly reduced both systolic and diastolic blood pressure across every single study. Average systolic reduction, 7.58 millimeters of mercury. That is the same range produced by low-dose thiazide diuretics, a first-line blood pressure medication prescribed to millions every day. Here is the mechanism. Hibiscus contains anthocyanins, the compounds behind its deep crimson color. These anthocyanins inhibit angiotensin-converting enzyme, ACE. ACE inhibitors are one of the most prescribed drug classes on Earth because ACE is one of the primary drivers of elevated blood pressure. When ACE is inhibited, blood vessels relax, pressure drops. Hibiscus does this naturally. It also acts as a mild diuretic, reducing the fluid volume in the bloodstream that pushes pressure higher. 2 mechanisms. 1 plant, 0 side effects at therapeutic doses. How to use it. 2 to 3 cups daily, brewed from dried hibiscus flowers, steeped for 10 minutes in hot water. Not hibiscus-flavored drinks, not blends, dried flowers. Brewed strong, consumed consistently. Results in the clinical studies appeared within 2 to 6 weeks. Hibiscus relaxes the vessel walls. What comes next targets something deeper. The inflammation inside those walls that nobody is talking about. Plant 2. Olive leaf. Not olive oil, the leaf. While olive oil has received decades of attention, the leaf of the same tree contains compounds 10 times more concentrated in therapeutic activity than the fruit it produces. The key compound is oleuropein. Oleuropein blocks calcium channels in arterial smooth muscle. Calcium channel blockers are an entire class of blood pressure pharmaceuticals, prescribed specifically because when calcium is blocked from entering arterial muscle cells, those muscles relax, vessels dilate, pressure drops. Oleuropein does this naturally. A randomized controlled trial published in Phytomedicine tested olive leaf extract against Captopril, a standard ACE inhibitor, in 232 patients with stage 1 hypertension over 8 weeks. Olive leaf extract performed equivalently to Captopril, equivalently to a pharmaceutical drug, with 0 reported adverse effects. Ancient Mediterranean physicians documented olive leaf preparations for cardiovascular conditions for centuries. The tree that produced the oil used to anoint kings also produced a leaf that kept their hearts healthy. That was not accidental. How to use it. 500 milligrams of olive leaf extract standardized to 20% oleuropein twice daily with meals. Always check the label for oleuropein percentage. Unstandardized products vary enormously. some containing almost none of the active compound. Before we get to plant 3, if this video is already showing you something your doctor never mentioned, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this information reach people who need it. All 7 plants with direct links are in the description below this video. Now, plant 3. Plant 3. Garlic. You've heard about garlic, but I guarantee you've never heard what it does inside your arteries at the molecular level. When you crush a garlic clove, an enzyme called alliinase converts alliin into allicin. Allicin stimulates nitric oxide production in the endothelium, the thin layer of cells lining your blood vessels. Nitric oxide tells vessel walls to relax. When your body produces insufficient nitric oxide, vessels constrict, resistance increases, pressure rises. Allicin triggers nitric oxide production directly. It also inhibits platelet aggregation, reducing the clotting tendency that contributes to arterial stiffness. And it reduces angiotensin II, the same compound that ACE inhibitors target pharmaceutically. A meta-analysis of 12 randomized controlled trials published in the Journal of Nutrition found garlic supplementation reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 8.4 millimeters of mercury in hypertensive patients. 8.4 points. From garlic. The Israelites wept for garlic when they left Egypt. Grown adults who had just been freed from slavery, mourning the absence of a plant. If you understand what garlic does to the cardiovascular system, their grief makes complete physiological sense. How to use it. 2 to 4 cloves of raw garlic daily, crushed or chopped and left for 10 minutes before consuming. That 10 minutes is not optional. The enzymatic conversion of alliin to allicin requires that activation time. Swallowing a whole uncrushed clove produces almost none of the therapeutic effect. Crush it, wait, then eat it. If raw garlic isn't practical, aged garlic extract at 600 to 1,200 milligrams daily is the most clinically studied supplement form. Plant 4. Rauwolfia. This is the one I told you about in the hook, the one the Egyptian pharaohs used. Most people in the Western world have never heard of it, and that gap between how powerful it is and how unknown it remains is one of the most significant oversights in modern natural medicine. Rauwolfia Serpentina has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for over 3,000 years for what ancient Indian physicians called conditions of the agitated heart and racing blood. They were describing hypertension and tachycardia. In 1952, pharmaceutical researchers studying Rauwolfia isolated a compound called reserpine. Reserpine became one of the first antihypertensive drugs ever approved by the FDA. The first pharmaceutical blood pressure medication in history came directly from this plant. Not inspired by it, extracted from it. The drug is the plant compound. Rauwolfia works by depleting norepinephrine from nerve terminals, reducing the sympathetic nervous system's constricting effect on blood vessel walls. Vessels relax, heart rate slows, pressure drops. A clinical study published in the Indian Journal of Pharmacology confirmed that standardized Rauwolfia extract produced significant reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure within 4 weeks. The pharaohs were not practicing primitive medicine. They were practicing precise botanical pharmacology. How to use it. Standardized Rauwolfia extract, 50 milligrams of root powder daily. Do not exceed this dose. Do not use if pregnant, if you have depression, or if you are taking antidepressants or antihypertensives without physician supervision. This plant works. That is precisely why it demands respect. Plant 5. Hawthorn. Ask any clinical herbalist in Europe what the single most evidence-backed botanical for cardiovascular health is. The answer is almost always the same: Hawthorn. Not because it is the most dramatic, because it is the most consistent. Modern cardiology has since identified exactly why it worked. Hawthorn contains oligomeric proanthocyanidins and flavonoids that work on the cardiovascular system through 3 pathways simultaneously. First, they inhibit phosphodiesterase, improving heart muscle efficiency while dilating coronary arteries. Second, they reduce peripheral vascular resistance, the tension in arterial walls that forces the heart to work harder with every beat. Third, they reduce oxidative damage in arterial tissue, addressing the arterial stiffness that develops silently over decades. A Cochrane systematic review examined 14 randomized controlled trials on Hawthorn for cardiovascular conditions. 14 trials. Same conclusion. That is not a trend. That is a pattern. How to use it. 900 milligrams of Hawthorn extract standardized to 1.8% vitexin, divided across 2 or 3 doses daily. Hawthorn is one of the safest plants on this list. It can be used long-term. If you are on blood pressure medication and want to start incorporating natural support, Hawthorn is where to begin. We have 2 plants left, and the next one is the one that most people have never heard of in this context. If you want the complete protocol and every product link, it's all in the description below. Now, Plant 6. Plant 6. Berberine. Most people know berberine for blood sugar. What they don't know, and what the research makes very clear, is that berberine is one of the most powerful natural antihypertensive compounds ever studied, through a mechanism completely different from everything covered so far. Berberine activates AMPK, the cellular master metabolic switch. When AMPK is activated in vascular smooth muscle, it reduces the production of angiotensin II receptors. Fewer receptors means less response to angiotensin II. Less response means less vasoconstriction. Less vasoconstriction means lower pressure. Berberine also increases nitric oxide production through a separate pathway from garlic. 2 plants, both producing nitric oxide, through different mechanisms. Used together, the effect is additive. A meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Chinese Medicine analyzed 27 randomized controlled trials on berberine for cardiovascular conditions. Berberine significantly reduced systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides simultaneously. One compound, 5 cardiovascular markers improved at the same time. Traditional Chinese medicine used berberine-containing plants for what classical texts described as damp heat in the heart, language that maps onto the inflammatory cardiovascular profile of hypertension with remarkable precision. How to use it. 500 milligrams 3 times daily with meals. Timing with meals is important. Absorption is significantly better alongside food. If you are on blood pressure medications, monitor your numbers closely when introducing berberine. The combined effect can be powerful. Plant 7. Black seed oil. This is the one I promised would stop you. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Hypertension analyzed 11 randomized controlled trials specifically on Nigella sativa and blood pressure. Black seed supplementation reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 3.26 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 2.8 millimeters of mercury. Those numbers might seem modest until you understand the context. Those reductions were produced in patients already being treated with standard antihypertensive medications, not untreated patients, people already on drugs, whose pressure was still not fully controlled, and black seed oil moved their numbers further. The mechanism is layered. Thymoquinone reduces oxidative stress in vascular tissue. It inhibits calcium channels in arterial smooth muscle, the same mechanism as pharmaceutical calcium channel blockers. It reduces pro-inflammatory cytokines that cause arterial stiffness, and it improves kidney function, reducing the fluid retention that contributes to elevated pressure. 4 mechanisms, 1 oil. The Prophet Muhammad described black seed as a cure for every disease except death. Modern cardiology is still discovering why that statement has held up across 1,400 years. How to use it. 2.5 milliliters of cold-pressed black seed oil, half a teaspoon, twice daily with meals, always cold-pressed. Heat processing destroys thymoquinone. The oil should taste sharp, slightly bitter, and peppery. If it tastes like nothing, the thymoquinone is gone and you are wasting your money. 7 plants, 7 mechanisms, all documented by ancient physicians who never once opened a pharmacology textbook, all confirmed by modern cardiology research. Let me give you the complete picture in 30 seconds. Hibiscus inhibits ACE and acts as a natural diuretic. Olive leaf blocks calcium channels and matched a pharmaceutical ACE inhibitor in a head-to-head trial. Garlic triggers nitric oxide production and depletes angiotensin II. Rauwolfia, the plant that gave us the first FDA-approved blood pressure drug, reduces sympathetic nervous system constriction. Hawthorn reduces peripheral vascular resistance across 14 randomized controlled trials. Berberine improves 5 cardiovascular markers simultaneously through AMPK activation. Black seed oil adds 4 separate antihypertensive mechanisms and moves blood pressure numbers in patients already on pharmaceutical treatment. No single drug addresses all 7 of these pathways. These plants do. One more thing. None of this is a reason to stop your medication without speaking to your doctor. What it is a reason to walk into that 15-minute appointment better informed than you walked into the last one. All 7 plants with direct purchase links are waiting for you in the description below. If this video gave you something, share it with someone whose doctor has also only given them 15 minutes. Leave a comment right now with your blood pressure numbers and how long you've been dealing with this. I read every single one. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. Your heart has been working without a day off since before you were born. It's time to return the favor.